You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. So, as Penka, relaxes a bit, we hear from Kweku, and perhaps the very first time you may get to hear him on this. So, a number of questions. And I want you, when you start, you flow as much as you want to. Question is, number one, for the entire period of the audit, GETFund, which was administering these scholarships, was found not to have used standards that scholarship awarding institutions adhere to. So they took GMPC, for example, and look at the way the processes of awarding scholarships. And they found that as for GETFund, what had become of the thing is that once you know that it is GETFund place, you go and put your application there, and the administrator deals with it directly, instead of advertising for the scholarships. They admit that it is in, I think, the last year that GETFund has now run adverts telling people they can come for it. Beyond that, for each year, they were giving more than they had. If Parliament approved 100,000 for you for scholarship, who is forcing you to give scholarships for 300,000? And they did in excess of 300%. It is recently that they have managed to bring it down to about 100%, overspending about 100%, and at a certain point, I think 90 or 60 something percent. What do you make of all of this?
See, in principle, I have had the attitude of backing, or if you like, giving critical support to the Auditor General and the Audit Service. And I'm not talking of just this Auditor General or the management now. These creatures of Constitution, and especially when it comes to probity and accountability principles, it's always good to give them the benefit of the doubt and support so that they can do their work. It helps us. So, in principle, that's my position on this matter. However, and I said critical support, that means that where you think an audit report or an Auditor General has erred, we should have the courage of conviction to state it and interrogate the issues the way they are. And Mr. Pemba actually went in that direction. I felt very uncomfortable when the report, a very important report like this, became a subject of political football and propaganda debate out there. I felt very uncomfortable. Not that I'm against people talking, but you see, there's a procedure. You submit this report to the Speaker for parliamentary scrutiny. I am not sure when the Auditor General published his thing on the website. I'm not sure. I have to be very careful. Because I know that you can do that only when you have presented the report to the Speaker. I think that's the sequence. So I'm not too sure when that happened. But you see, this matters and all these controversies we are having.
But the letter of transmittal is 8 November 2019.
Yes, that doesn't mean that's when it went to Parliament. Indeed, my own latest search, and that's why I'm not sure when it was published on the website of the Audit Service. But the report got to Parliament February 7th, 2020.
Okay.
Even though if you read the transmitter letter, as you are saying, it is stated that November, it was sent to the 8th November 2019. But if you do further search, you will see that the auditor, and I have it here, the Auditor General, this letter is dated 5th February 2020. The stamp of receipt from the office of the Speaker is 7th February 2020.
Okay.
So sometimes if you are not careful, you'll be deceived by the official record.
Okay.
You have to do deeper interrogation. But I do not know when it was put on its website. That is what.
But 7th February will still mean that it got to Parliament before we began to discuss it.
Yes, but that's why I said website.
Okay.
I'm talking here of the procedures that have been aligned by law, their own act. As for we, the public, why, if I intercept and I bring it here, won't we discuss it?
Of course.
Yes, we'll discuss it, even if it's 2 months before the speaker gets it. You can't stop us. You see, and why I'm making this point is this. When such reports go through the procedures that are outlined by law, we are able to do the discussions dispassionately. And wherever there are errors and things to are handled properly without any imputing any ill motive or mischief to anybody. Here we are, before even the Public Accounts Committee will deal with the issues. We are interrogating the issues. I've heard some staff of the audit service already on air. I've heard a GETFund person on air, give and take, explaining things. I would have wished that hadn't happened. I would have wished that this focused interaction took place at the Public Accounts Committee. Because see, I've gone through some of the documentation. First of all, and that's why the social media went in all over. See, Appendix 5, the list of 88, the title. I found it very significant. Members of Parliament, politicians, media practitioners, lecturers, heads of institutions and associates awarded scholarships. Members of Parliament, politicians. I've checked the list. I realized that you were talking about 3,100.
Yes.
It was around 9,000.
Applications.
Those accepted were 3,112.
Yes.
6,362 rejected. Now I watched this list of 88, which is titled in this way. I've been counting the politicians and the MPs there. How many are they?
What's your issue?
About 4 or 5 politicians. But out there, when this was put out, it was as if politicians had raided the GETFund table.
Yes.
And look, such issues, I've always said it here, it's like the ex gratia, those things. You put it out in the streets, the masses win. Because you are playing on the keyboards of people's emotions.
Is it the problem of the Auditor General that you are reading and using it the way you want to do?
The titling was his.
And what's wrong with the titling?
The titling, look, my view really is that set up the discussions relative to politicians and MPs.
The law says when they find any infractions or anything, they should draw attention to Parliament. So that's what you have done.
Yeah, but so far, nobody has proved to me that an MP being a beneficiary violates the law. You've been having that argument. I have it. My stand goes with Pempa's stand. Because see, the distribution formula goes to Parliament. Yeah. Of course, they don't cite individual MPs, but there's a portion for MPs.
Yes.
And Parliament approves it. So if there has been some illegalization of it, let's look at it from that broad angle. Either a judicial pronouncement or an amendment of the legislative instrument, of the act.
That's the Auditor General's interpretation of the law, and it's categorical. This is wrong.
Fine, but he's not the finality.
He's not competent to
so he says so. He says so.
But that's fine. But that's why I've moved to the level that either you have a judicial pronouncement, determination, or a legislative amendment. But if you judged it this way, fine. But I'm saying that the listing, the titling itself was significant. I don't think it came out from the blue. You know, I would have gone along with it if in this 3,000 or so people, you had about 200 or so politicians. I haven't seen the full list. The list he's put here is 88. He finds that list significant. A list of 88 beneficiaries, significant. And he titles them. But I said, when I go through it, I saw just some 4 or 5 politicians or politically affiliated persons. 2 or 3 real politicians and one or two related to some politicians.
And one of them has even come out to say he didn't benefit.
Yes, but apparently he did some application.
Only he didn't.
And you see, beyond that too, something. Please.
No, but we must state the correction too.
Yeah.
When the MP, Kennedy Osenyako, through his lawyers wrote, they never suggested anywhere in his own interviews, never suggested that he had applied.
You are right.
But now the GETFund administrator has told us that he actually applied.
Yes, which makes it
so
what
it's
just
the benefit he didn't get, which a number of people have suffered the same thing.
Yes, and I think the MP should have been a bit more open. Deputy Minister should have been a bit more open. I applied, I didn't get. That would have been a fair assessment of the thing. You see, and then, again the difficulty, and I realized Doctor was trying to explain it. I'm not well educated on these things. But you see, when you go through the list of 88, my checks, straight away 12 out because they never even benefited. So that list of 88 is reduced by 12. Now, another point, 39 of the list of 88, if you check the financials, completely out of gear.
What do you mean?
See, let me use a classic. There are many. I've listed over 10. But just because we don't have time, perhaps I will have to take Matthew. I'm taking a popular one so that you can get the point. He I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. If you check the tuition fee, it's correct. It's $11,200. That is stated in the Auditor General's thing. 11,200. Then when it comes to the living allowance, stop point. It is stated here 12,800. But the record showed that it was 1,150. And the 39, the list of 39, each of them, the figure given is in contradiction with the official
record
one.
are you talking about?
Which record?
The Auditor General's own work.
The Auditor General's own work.
At one place where you have
the 88
lists. Compared to what list?
Compared to the list.
The full list that was supplied the Auditor General?
No.
Or what?
A list, but you know you are talking to an investigative journalist.
Yeah.
Actual beneficiaries.
Yeah, you are talking to an investigative journalist. I'm sure, and that's why I said I would have wished these things happen at public accounts committee.
Yes.
That's all. So that all the facts are clear. I have a list here, 39 beneficiaries out of this list of 88.
Which list is this?
That's my list.
You know.
Stimulate.
You don't work at GETFund.
So it means I've researched GETFund, Audit Service, Ministry of Education, and all that. That's what it means.
And you have received figures that are different from the figures the auditor dealt with.
You are talking to an investigative journalist.
Okay. How are you able to come to the conclusion that the figures given to you are the same figures that the auditor was presented with?
You see, these things are
there
very
were
simple.
two levels that the auditee was supposed to respond. And they responded at those two levels. Why didn't they correct those? And why is that not part of the report?
How are the monies paid?
Bank transfers.
Thank you. So there's enough record at the appropriate places, the banks, all those places, to check. And I say, you are talking to me. I've done my search. Not that I'm perfect. Not that I've never made mistakes before. I have, sometimes very grave ones, which I've come back to retract and apologize for. So I'm human. But I'm saying that I've done these checks. We don't have time. I would have given you more examples. And some, the discrepancy or disparity.
It's too great.
It's too huge.
It's huge, yeah.
And that worries me. And that's what I mean by, well, no audit report is sacrosanct.
Right.
And that's why it's subject to judicial matters. For instance, let me finish this one. The Auditor General intends to issue surcharges and disallowances. those things must have a foundation, proper foundation. If they are challenged based on such things, you may lose the case in court.
You lose it. You lose it.
You lose the case in court when material, discrepancies of this nature are brought up.
So my question again is, we're going for a quick break. My question again is, why are the people now supplying us alternative facts? Why did they not react in the manner they are reacting now during the 2 levels of conferences before the audit concluded?
Well, you're asking the wrong person. I'm not a spokesperson for any of them.
Absolutely.
And that is the reason why I thought Public Accounts Committee would have cured a lot of the mischief and enlightened us.
Okay.
Unfortunately, this is a vibrant democracy. Somebody intercepts the document, he throws it out there, we all discuss.
Okay.
His social media with all its positive nature, also very negative ones are in there. It's distorted, misrepresented, and everything. But I say, I've said what I've said here in good faith. Look, I'm in full support of the Auditor General and the Audit Service as a matter of principle. But that doesn't mean that when I'm clear in my mind that there's something wrong with a product of his work, he shouldn't be subjected to criticism.
Now let me take my break. And of course, we here at Newsfile, my production reliably informed me they have tried in the course of the week, and they got the administrator of the GETFund. He agreed to speak, to answer questions that I just posed one to Kweku Baako, and he agreed to speak. But this morning they have called him several times. He's not picking his call. The contact was also made to the Auditor General's office, but they declined to comment any further. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back to ask the questions, including why 40% of the beneficiaries never presented an admission letter. 79% of beneficiaries were funded without showing proof they were Ghanaians. How does GETFund explain this gross neglect? Should our focus be on the errors that purportedly have been made by the Auditor General or the revelations that are uncontested?
Both.